Most people think avoidants hold all the power because they pull away whenever they want. But here's the truth, an avoidant can't actually leave you without your permission. Once you understand that, you'll never feel powerless again. So many of us get caught up in chasing someone who's emotionally unavailable. They pull away, we panic, and suddenly it feels like we're on their timeline, their terms, their rules. But here's what no one tells you. They only get to leave if you allow it. See, avoidance isn't a superpower. It's a pattern. And the moment you stop rewarding that pattern, the dynamic shifts. You get to set the terms of connection, not them. Think about it like this. If someone pulls away and you start chasing, you reinforce their behavior. But if someone pulls away and you calmly hold your ground, you communicate something powerful. I'm not here to fight for scraps. You either step up or step out. Suddenly, you're the one setting the pace. You're not their puppet. You're the one holding the strings. And the avoidant feels it, because the only way they can stay in your life is by respecting your boundaries. Here's the secret. The moment you realize you don't need their attention, their distance stops controlling you. And when you stop being controlled, they either rise to meet you or they leave. Either way, you win. When you think about it, nobody actually leaves you without your permission. That might sound strange at first, because when someone walks away, it feels like they've taken control and made the choice for both of you. But in reality, the act of leaving doesn't truly happen until you accept their absence as the final word. What happens far more often is that people don't just walk away physically, they leave emotionally, and we still let them stay in our lives. That's where our silent permission comes in. Think about the moments where someone pulls back, stops showing up fully, or withdraws their attention and energy. What usually happens? We step in to cover the gap. We tolerate the distance. We lower our expectations. We make excuses, and we keep the connection alive, even though they've already started detaching. Every time we do that, we're essentially signing a contract that says, you can treat me this way, and I'll still be here. That's the permission they're operating on. It's not their disappearance that wounds us. It's our agreement to accept less than we deserve. When you stop granting that permission, something powerful happens. You send a message that says, if you leave emotionally, you've already left. I'm not going to chase you. I'm not going to beg you. And I'm not going to shrink myself just to keep you close. Suddenly, the balance shifts. Because now, they can't just retreat and still enjoy the safety of your presence. They either need to step forward with you, or they lose access to the connection. It's important to understand that this isn't about being cold, manipulative, or trying to punish someone. It's about recognizing your value and refusing to subsidize someone else's avoidance. If you allow someone to keep pulling away while you hold all the emotional weight, they will never have to confront their own behavior. They'll keep living in a dynamic where they can disappear and still come back without consequence. But when you stop giving permission, when you say, through your actions, I won't wait around for half-hearted love, you create a standard. This standard is not about ultimatums. It's about self-respect. You're no longer giving them the comfort of knowing that no matter how they show up, you'll still be available. And that's what makes the avoidant dynamic crumble. Because avoidance only works if the other person is willing to play along, filling in the spaces where love and effort should be. If you think back to your own experiences, you'll probably notice that the times you felt most powerless were not when someone left completely, but when they hovered in and out, half present, half gone, while you kept accepting it. That's the gray area where your permission keeps the cycle alive. And the moment you withdraw that permission, you cut off the oxygen supply. They don't get to have the benefits of your presence while offering you absence in return. When someone pulls away, the natural instinct for many of us is to chase. We feel the gap growing, and it's uncomfortable, almost unbearable. Our mind starts spinning with questions. Did I do something wrong? Are they losing interest? How do I bring them back? That anxiety pushes us into action, and before we realize it, we're the one calling more, texting more, trying harder, just to fill the silence they've created. On the surface, it seems like we're fixing the problem, but what we're really doing is training them. We're rewarding their distance. Imagine it like this: if every time they step back, you move forward, you're teaching them that pulling away is safe. They learn that they don't need to show up consistently because you'll always be there to compensate. They don't need to risk vulnerability because you'll do the emotional work for both of you. Avoidance becomes reinforced just like a habit. Why would they lean in when leaning out gets them the comfort of your attention without the responsibility of giving theirs? This is the trap so many people fall into. They confuse effort with love, thinking that if they just show enough devotion, the other person will eventually feel secure and come closer. But the opposite happens. The more you chase, the less they feel the need to move toward you. And over time, you start to feel resentful, drained, and unseen because you've turned the relationship into a one-sided pursuit. The powerful shift comes when you stop feeding that cycle. Instead of rewarding distance with attention, you allow distance to have its natural consequence, disconnection. That doesn't mean you punish them or shut down in anger. It means you simply don't collapse into their absence. If they pull away, you don't run after them. You hold steady in your own life. You keep your standards, your routines, your joy intact. By doing that, you send a clear message. If you want closeness with me, you need to bring closeness. My love isn't earned by running away. At first, this can feel terrifying because it goes against your instincts. You're breaking the habit of chasing, and with that comes uncertainty. But this is where strength is built. The avoidant starts to notice that their old behavior no longer gets the same result. Instead of your extra reassurance, they're met with your calm self-possession. Instead of the safety net, they feel the reality of distance. And that reality forces them to make a choice to step up and connect or risk losing access to the relationship altogether. When you stop rewarding distance, you teach people how to treat you. You show them that intimacy is a two-way street, not something you'll carry alone. And if they can't meet you halfway, then the space they create will only reveal the truth. You're not meant to be chasing them. You're meant to be open to someone who naturally chooses closeness. Holding your standard is one of the most powerful positions you can take in any relationship. It's the line that quietly communicates. This is the level of love, respect, and consistency I accept in my life. The challenge is that when emotions are involved, many people lower their standard without realizing it. They convince themselves that a little less effort is okay, that inconsistent affection is better than nothing, or that someone's potential is enough reason to stay invested. Every time you adjust downward, you're teaching the other person that you'll compromise yourself just to keep them close. The truth is, standards aren't about being demanding or hard to please. They're about self-respect. When you decide you won't tolerate being breadcrumbed, ignored, or made to feel small, you're sending a message, not only to the other person, but to yourself, that your worth doesn't shrink just because someone else is unsure. You don't need to explain your standard with long speeches or heated arguments. People learn your standard by how you live, not by what you say. If someone fails to show up consistently and you continue to give them your time, your standard is clear. Inconsistency is acceptable. If they pull away and you chase, your standard says, distance will still get my energy. But if you calmly hold your ground and only reward genuine presence, your standard shines through effort matters, and I won't settle for less. This doesn't mean you build walls or act superior. In fact, holding your standard requires vulnerability because you're willing to risk losing someone who won't meet it. You're saying, I'd rather be alone with my dignity than together and diminished. That takes courage, but it also creates clarity. The right person will recognize your strength and step into it, while the wrong person will fall away. Either outcome protects you. There's a misconception that standards push people away, but in reality, standards attract the right people. Think of it like a filter. Those unwilling to invest won't stick around, and that's exactly what you want. When you live by a clear standard, you free yourself from chasing potential and start focusing on reality. You're no longer bending yourself into knots to keep someone interested. You're simply living your life in alignment with your values, and anyone who wants to share it has to rise to that level. The real beauty of holding your standard is that it changes how you feel about yourself. You no longer wake up anxious, wondering if you're enough, because you've stopped making someone else's inconsistency the measure of your worth. You know you're enough already, and your actions reflect that truth. If someone wants to be in your life, they'll meet you there. If they don't, you've lost nothing. You've only made space for someone who can. Taking back the frame is about deciding that you will no longer live at the mercy of someone else's rhythms. When an avoidant person pulls away, they often set the pace of the connection without even realizing it. They create distance, and suddenly you're reacting. You're waiting for their text, analyzing their silence, adjusting your mood based on their availability. It feels as though they've seized control of the relationship simply by withdrawing. But the truth is that control only exists if you surrender it. The moment you stop reacting to their movements and start leading with your own pace, the dynamic transforms. Imagine a dance where one person keeps stepping back. If you keep stepping forward to match them, you've given them the role of leader. But if you stop chasing, hold your position, and let them come to you, you change the rhythm entirely. They either have to step back in or leave the dance floor altogether. Either way, you're no longer following, you're leading by holding your ground. Taking back the frame doesn't mean you ignore someone or play games. It means you stop letting their inconsistency dictate your emotional state. Instead of waiting around, you focus on your own life. You invest in your friendships, your passions, your growth. You fill your time with things that bring you joy and fulfillment, not with monitoring whether they're moving closer or farther away. This shifts the energy in a powerful way because now you're not passively living in their orbit, you're inviting them to step into yours. When you live this way, the frame of the relationship belongs to you. You're not anxiously responding to their pullback, you're calmly saying through your actions, "This is the direction my life is going. You're welcome to join me, but I won't stop moving forward." That's magnetic. It makes people feel the weight of their choices because they realize that if they don't engage, they risk being left behind. And for an avoidant who's used to being chased, this is a brand new experience. There's also a deeper benefit. You regain your sense of power. Instead of feeling small, helpless, or dependent on their attention, you remember that you have agency. You get to decide how much access someone has to your time, your heart, and your energy. You're not powerless. You're in charge of the standards and pace of your own life. When you embrace this, you stop seeing their withdrawal as rejection and start seeing it as information. They're showing you their capacity, and you get to decide whether that's enough for you. Taking back the frame creates freedom. You don't need to manipulate, plead, or prove yourself. You simply hold steady in who you are and let them reveal whether they can meet you there. If they can, the relationship grows in strength and equality. If they can't, you've already built a life that moves forward without them. When you understand that you always win, no matter what the outcome is, you stop playing relationships from a place of fear. The fear usually sounds like this: what if they leave? What if I lose them? What if I never find this again? That fear makes you hold on tighter, compromise more, and accept less because you're clinging to the idea that their presence is the prize. But the real prize is not keeping someone who can't meet you halfway. The prize is living in alignment with your worth. When you anchor yourself in that truth, you realize that whatever happens next is in your favor. If they rise to meet your standard, that's a win. You get closeness, effort, and a real connection with someone who's shown that they're willing to step up. You haven't begged for their affection or dragged them into it. They've chosen it. That kind of connection is sustainable because it's mutual. And it only happens because you were strong enough not to cave when they tested the boundary. You didn't reward their distance. You didn't chase. And as a result, you created an environment where respect could grow. But if they don't rise to meet your standard, that's also a win. It may sting in the moment because losing someone you care about is never painless. But what you gain is clarity. You're no longer stuck in limbo, trying to decipher mixed signals or wondering if you're enough. Their inability to meet you where you are reveals the truth they weren't capable of giving you what you needed. That knowledge frees you. It saves you from months or even years of investing in someone who was never going to show up fully. It clears space for someone who will. This mindset that you always win shifts everything. It takes the desperation out of dating and relationships. You're no longer auditioning for someone's love or panicking at the thought of their absence. Instead, you're standing firmly in the knowledge that you'll be okay regardless of what they choose. That confidence is magnetic, but more importantly, it's protective. It keeps you from falling into cycles of over-investment and emotional exhaustion. When you believe you always win, you stop bargaining with yourself. You stop saying things like, maybe I'm asking for too much, or if I lower my expectations, they'll stay. You recognize that lowering the bar doesn't actually keep love. It only prolongs disappointment. and you stop giving people the power to define your worth with their presence or absence. This isn't about arrogance or pretending you don't care. It's about perspective. Either they step into the relationship with the energy and effort you deserve, or they step out, and both outcomes serve you. One gives you love, the other gives you freedom. Either way, you come out stronger, clearer, and more aligned with what you truly want. At the end of the day, remember this: avoidants don't hold the power you think they do. The real power has always been in your hands, because they can't leave without your permission. You decide the standard. You decide the pace. You decide whether their distance controls you or whether it teaches you to claim more for yourself. When you stop rewarding distance, when you hold your standard, when you take back the frame, you shift the entire dynamic. And once you realize you always win, whether they step up or step out, you'll never again feel trapped in someone else's patterns. You'll feel free because you'll finally see that their choices don't define you. Your choices do. So walk away today with this: the moment you remember your value, you stop being afraid of who stays and who goes, because the right people won't need chasing. They'll meet you where you are. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for being brave enough to grow. I appreciate your time, your energy, and your trust. Until we meet again, take care of yourself, lead with your worth, and remember, you're always in control.